Okay, chapter 3, integer exponents. We're going to talk about different types of integers as your exponents. We haven't really addressed that yet, but we're going to go over it today. Specifically, negative exponents. Okay, so in general, when you have a negative exponent, you can't have a negative exponent. Okay, so basically, we're going to learn how to make a negative exponent positive. So this would look like this fraction. What you're doing is this. You're going to move the base, which is the x, that's attached to the negative exponent, into the opposite position. Right now, it's in the numerator. If we had to, you write it as a fraction, you write it like that. To make it positive, you move the base and the exponent into the opposite position, from numerator to denominator. If it was in the denominator, you'd move it up to the numerator. You do not move the coefficient. There's a 1 in front of that, right? Yes? Everything has a 1 in front of it, correct? The coefficient doesn't move, just the base that's attached to the negative exponent. That's the only thing that moves. So if you need to circle those things to remind you, then do so. You are not flipping the fraction upside down. That's not what you're doing. You're only moving the base and the negative exponent. Do you understand? All right, so we're going to go over a couple things here. So look at this one. Negative 3x to the negative 2. What do you think that answer is going to be? Who's caught on? What do you think it's going to be? Yes?
Negative 3 fraction power x negative 2.
Yeah, negative 3, and then x to the positive 2. The only thing that moved was the base and the negative exponent. The coefficient stayed where it was at, and all I did was move the base and the exponent and make the exponent positive then. Okay? Let's do another one. How about 1 over x to the negative a? What's that going to be? Yes?
X a over 1.
Right. There's a 1 here, so that stays there. This is what moves up to the top. You don't have to put it over 1, but you can if you want to. Okay, so that's showing that you move that base out of the denominator up to the top to make it positive. All right, can you do that? All right, let's do one more. Let's do 2 over 5x to the negative 3. Who thinks they can do this one? Brianna.
2 over 5x.
I'm sorry, 2 over what? 5 what?
5x positive 3.
You're going to leave it in the bottom? Why? It's in the bottom. To make it positive, you got to trade positions. So the x cubed is going to go on top. It becomes positive, and the 5's on the bottom.
Wait, what?
This is a negative exponent, right?
Yeah.
It's attached to this x.
Yeah.
To make it positive, I got to move it from either the bottom to the top or top to the bottom. Since it's in the bottom, I'll move it to the top. That makes it change its sign.
But you don't move the 5 with it?
No, you do not move the coefficients.
So,
Only the base and the exponent gets moved. All right, so real quickly, I'll do another one like this. Let's say negative 3xy squared over 4 s to the negative 2t. What part?
having the 2.
This one right here lost you?
Yeah.
Okay, no, there's only one thing wrong with this fraction. It has a negative exponent. So Addie, what is the negative exponent attached to?
The s.
The s. And this is the only thing you need to move. If you needed to reduce, let's say this was 2 over 4, you would reduce that to 1/2. Okay? But as far as the negative exponent is concerned, you need to change that. This goes up top. So the answer here is negative 3x y squared s squared over 4t. And then that answer would be simplified.
So for all this, we have to end up answering them?
You're just moving them. You're manipulating it.
Oh,
So
okay.
the only
So we don't have
time-
to solve it.
The only time you move the exponent is if it's a negative.
You're right. If you wanted to move everything to the top, like sometimes you'll have an instruction that say, I don't want anything as a fraction. Then you would have to move the t to the top and you would call it t to the what?
Fourth power.
What is the exponent on the t right here?
1.
The 1. So if I wanted to put everything to the top, the t would go up here and you would call it negative 1 for the exponent because you moved it to the top. It changes the sign.
How would it be negative?
Well, it's positive down here. When you move
Oh,
them,
okay.
it changes the sign. So you might get some instructions that say, I don't want any fractions, put everything in the numerator. Well, that means you would have to change this, put it to the top, and make it t to the negative
So
1.
what would you do it for?
Well, that would, I'm just saying in general. Whatever's on the bottom has to be moved up. They wouldn't give it to you like that. Okay? All right, now, going on. Example 1. That was all instruction. In decimal form, what this part is called. 10 to the negative 2. So I don't know what 10 to the negative 2 is. I need to change it to a positive 2. What do I need to do? How do I make it positive?
10 negative 2 over 1.
But I want to make the negative 2 positive.
I don't know.
You're on the right track. It already is 10 to the negative 2 over 1. Yeah.
1/10.
Yeah, 1 over 10 squared. Now what is 10 squared?
100.
And it is, how do you write 1 100th as a decimal? 1 100th.
1.6.
Isn't that 1 100th?
Oh. I didn't mean to like seriously do that.
Okay. All right. So now you kind of get what we're doing here. Let's do another one. Example 2. Let's see.
You're in this YouTube.
All right. 10 to the negative 6. Everybody try to write this as a decimal. Thanks.
Oh, I don't get no
Nice pictures on Facebook.
That's right. That's my neighbor's dog. My doggy's died.
Both of them?
Was that buckler?
Yeah.
1 over.
All right. 1 over 10 to the 6th power. Now, here's how you do this. 10 squared, add 1 0. With 2 decimal places. How many zeros is this going to have?
4.
10 squared, add 1 0.
5.
Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6 decimal places. Okay. All right, example 3. 2 to the negative 6. This one I just want you to simplify. What's it going to look like?
1 over 2
1 over 2 to the 6th. Now, you get 0 points for this. Because you can tell me what 2 to the 6th is.
Yeah, because that becomes
2 times 2.
4.
2 times 4. 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times 2,
12.
16.
times 2,
32.
32.
times 2,
64.
1 over 64. So if you can tell me what the value is, you need to tell me. And this is how you would write this on your paper. You need to write all of that. All right, going on. Example 4. 2 plus 2 to the negative 2, in parentheses, plus 1 plus 1 to the negative 4. Simplify. Simplify. That far?
Yes. Finally.
Okay.
Wait, it's still negative?
Well, I haven't done anything yet. How do I make it positive?
Oh, you put it over 1. I just skipped that.
Now remember, these are all in the numerator. We put them in the denominator to make it positive. Remember, if they're in the denominator and negative, you need to put them in the numerator. Now, one thing. The negative exponent does not, everybody listen, because this is what students, almost 50% of all students do. The negative exponent has no bearing, no weight at all on whether or not the problem is positive or negative. It doesn't change the problem to a negative, or it doesn't change it to a positive, okay? If the problem was negative, like this one, this was negative, it stayed negative. Alright? That was negative, it still stayed negative. The negative exponent doesn't change the value of positive and negative. You all understand? Alright. So this one is 1 over 16 plus 1 over 16. That's 2/16, or who had 1/8? 2 of you. 3, 4, 5. Really? That was it? Alright, let's do some more then. Let's talk about zero exponents. X to the 0, or anything to the 0 power, is not 0. 1.
Oh.
If I have 25x squared y to the 5th over 51 z to the 3rd raised to the 0 power,
It's 1.
1.
Oh!
First one.
Anything to the 0 power is 1. And as we progress through this chapter, I'll explain why it is 1. Okay? Right now, you know that it's 1. Now, one exception. What is that?
That is
Negative
0.
Negative 1.
Negative 1, because
X.
what's the number in front of x?
1.
Negative 1 times x to the 0. X to the 0 is 1, so you have negative 1 times 1, which is negative 1. Got it?
Yeah.
If I put a negative out in front here, that's still negative 1 times this. This is 1, so that would be a negative then.
Okay.
Yeah.
Negative 1 times x, which is to the 0 power, so it'll be 1, negative 1 times 0 is 0.
No, x to the 0 is not 0. X to the 0 is 1.
But
It's just 1.
Right? See? Look, x to the 0 is 1. So this is x to the 0. So I have negative 1 times 1. Right?
I guess so.
So I substitute that in here. It's still negative times positive. That gives me negative 1. There's only one answer. No, two possible answers. It's either going to be a positive 1 or it's going to be a negative 1. What's this?
1.
Negative.
No, 1.
Go.
Positive 1.
1.
Negative 1.
1 is 1.
Dang it!
It doesn't matter what's inside. Anything to the 0 power is 1.
But you just said the
No,
negative.
no, no.
was
The
on the
negative is
outside.
not attached. Here, it's inside this thing.
Oh, I see.
Okay. I gave you the really hard problems. Make sure you have the stuff you know. So
That's easy.
Don't erase the.
All right, so example 5. I'm not going to erase any of it. 3 to the negative 2 times 2 squared times 4 to the 0 power.
Oh, that's
Simplify. Greg says it's easy.
yeah, that's easy.
Give me a second.
Oh,
I'll write it down.
yeah, that's great. You and I are going to do this. You and I are going to do this. Okay. First thing, there's 2 things you can do. There's 3 things you can do. You can deal with the negative exponent. You can tell me what 2 squared is, or you can tell me what 4 to the 0 power is first. You can do any of those 3 things, and you can do them in any order. You'll get the same answer. So what do you want to do first? The 4 to the 0, what's that? Okay, so let's write this, rewrite it.
Oh man.
And that's what he did was totally fine. And what you have to start doing now is when you look at a problem is start deciding what can you do first. A lot of times you can do more than one thing. All right, now what do you want to do next? This is 2 squared is 4. So I'm going to rewrite it again. Now, what do you want to do? Okay, now what I told you was a negative exponent does not mean you're taking 3 times negative 2. You can't do that. That's not what an exponent means. Exponent means you're going to take this base times itself that many times. So I'm taking that.
9.
Yeah, that's what that means. But the problem is that's a negative exponent. I don't know how to do negative exponents. I need to make it positive. How do we make that negative exponent positive? Yeah. So this is 1 over 3 squared times 4 times 1. So what do we have? What do you want to do next? Yeah. So what do you have? 1 over 9 times 4 times 1. You want to do the 4 times 1?
I'm lost.
You're doing everything right so far. Why don't we do 4 times 1?
4.
Yeah. 1 9 times 4. What's 4 as a fraction?
4.
Now how do you do multiply fractions? Yeah, that's the answer. Unless you can reduce it.
And no.
No, you can't. So you're done.
Maybe I just did all of them. So that was a wall.
Yeah.
That was like almost all my whole page.
I started using
Really?
that.
Yeah.
All right, we're good.
2 to 4.
Can you shut off? Can you shut
All right,
off?
That's a lot.